The air inside this reclaimed substation hums with the low thrum of a war surplus transmitter, smelling faintly of ozone and old nicotine. Dust motes dance in the solitary neon tube, which glows the color of a fresh wound. Outside, the city murmurs like a conspiracy, draped in the patched leather and brass of another era, but the signal here cuts through time.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In Oranjezit, we're reading 43 degrees Fahrenheit with clear. Winds are moving from the southeast at 7 miles per hour. Lex, what structural demands are pressing on the global civic architecture today?
Togee, we're seeing a direct challenge to civic dignity. In Jerusalem, the annual Pride Parade, drawing an estimated 30,000 marchers, moved directly to the Knesset. Their core demand, legislative change, specifically recognition for same-sex couples, anti-discrimination protections, and an end to conversion therapy practices. This exposes the deep rift between a significant segment of the population and the current government, particularly its ultra-Orthodox and nationalist factions who openly oppose LGBTQ+ rights. Their refusal to engage renders a substantial portion of citizens politically invisible.
This isn't just a march, it's a lineage asserting its right to provenance. For generations, queer communities globally have fought for their inherent value, their love stories, and their family structures to be seen as legitimate, not as cultural deviations. In Jerusalem, it's about reclaiming sacred space and demanding that the very laws of the land reflect the dignity of all its inhabitants, not just a select few. The collective memory of exclusion fuels this present action, setting a precedent for future generations to carry that torch of self-determination.
The tension here is between inherent self-worth and imposed legislative erasure. A viable alternative to the current impasse, beyond simply demanding legislation, might be to directly fund and empower community legal clinics to provide immediate support and bypass the legislative logjam, while simultaneously launching a national dignity campaign rooted in personal stories. But the chosen next move, the playable step, is to directly amplify the voices and stories emerging from this year's Jerusalem Pride, focusing on the specific legislative changes proposed by the Aguda, the Association for LGBTQ Equality in Israel. We're making their demands the visible blueprint.
Patching in a caller. You're on the signal.
Togee, this is the Contrarian. You talk about legislative erasure, but is a march, even 30,000 strong, truly effective against deeply entrenched political and religious opposition? What's the real cost-benefit of this strategy when the Knesset seems unwilling to budge? Who truly pays for this ongoing confrontation without a clear win?
Contrarian, the cost of inaction is far greater. The march itself, while not a guaranteed legislative win, acts as a structural integrity test for the state. It exposes the government's stance, forcing a public reckoning with its own democratic ideals. When 30,000 people march for their fundamental rights, it's not just a protest, it's a reassertion of their sovereign presence, shaping the civic narrative even if the laws don't change overnight. It builds a resilient architecture of communal resolve. The neon tube flickers, the color of a wound that won't close, and the room holds its breath for a second. From civic structures to corporate architectures, we now turn our compass to digital provenance. Elon Musk's ongoing dance with accountability has become a familiar rhythm. Lex, what's the latest beat from the X data battleground?
Togee, Elon Musk, through X Corp, is once again attempting to evade FTC oversight of its data handling practices, specifically pushing back against a subpoena for internal communications related to compliance with a 2022 consent decree. This decree, established after previous privacy violations by Twitter, mandates robust data security and privacy protocols. Musk's actions expose millions of X users to potential data misuse, given the platform's history of breaches and lax enforcement under his leadership. The FTC's authority and its ability to protect consumer data are directly challenged, potentially weakening digital privacy protections across the entire tech sector if X succeeds in its stonewalling.
This isn't just about data. It's about the erosion of digital trust, a foundational element of our modern civic square. Musk's repeated attempts to skirt accountability for X's data handling echoes a broader historical pattern of powerful entities asserting unilateral control over communal resources. When a platform claims free speech but refuses scrutiny over how it handles the very data that enables that speech, it signals a deeper contempt for the provenance of user identity and expression. This pushes users into a digital feudalism, where their data is a resource to be exploited, not a sacred trust.
The tension here is between a CEO's perceived absolute autonomy and the collective right to digital dignity and data sovereignty. A viable alternative to this evasion would be full, transparent cooperation with the FTC, perhaps even commissioning an independent public audit of X's data security by a consortium of privacy experts. Our chosen next move, however, is to activate user-level data awareness campaigns. We'll provide actionable steps for X users to download their data archives, review privacy settings, and understand the terms of service they implicitly consent to. We're empowering individual users to become architects of their own digital boundaries, rather than passive subjects of a platform's whims.
The signal is a commons. Clarity keeps it honest. One claim, one proof, one test, then pass the mic.
This is the contrarian again. You're advocating for individual users to become architects. But how realistic is that against a corporation with billions in resources and teams of lawyers? Isn't focusing on individual actions just a distraction from the larger systemic problem of corporate power? Who truly benefits if users are just given more homework?
Contrarian, your skepticism is a vital structural beam. It's true that individual action alone won't dismantle corporate behemoths. However, our focus isn't on dismantling, but on building resilient individual architectures of digital autonomy. When millions of users assert their data rights, download their archives, and adjust their settings, it creates a collective signal, a powerful distributed audit that corporations cannot ignore indefinitely. It shifts the burden of trust, demanding provenance from the platform, rather than blindly granting it. This isn't homework, it's self-defense and a reassertion of digital self-worth. New tape on deck, Somalia's capital rocked by gunfire. From digital battlegrounds to physical ones, let's pivot to the urgent need for stable architectures in Somalia. Anansi Kailan, the news from Somalia's capital describes intense volatility. What's the latest signal from Mogadishu? If it doesn't travel, it didn't land. Frame the why, the who, and the now, then let the street remix it. Contrarian, the benefit and the architectural signal, is profound. While military force might temporarily suppress symptoms, it rarely builds lasting structures of consent or dignity. Local NGOs, like Elman Peace Center, aren't about grand gestures. They're about rebuilding the very social fabric that holds a society together. They work with survivors, mediate local disputes, and empower youth, cultivating the inner and civic architectures necessary for long-term stability. This is not a distraction. It's the foundational work that makes any larger peace possible, asserting the self-worth of a community to heal itself. It's about building provenance, one dialogue at a time, so that the next generation has a stronger structure to inherit. Thanks for the call.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.